the big lack that we see is in the systemic perspective and in places that can make innovation happen at the systemic level. We are basically analyzing the impact of the environment and of food with different experiments on men's fertility, analyzing youth between 18 and 25 and men over 70, and impact on longevity and mental health for people living in our campus in the lands of the Mediterranean diet in Cilento, and people living in close to a major city that is much more polluted. And the numbers that we are finding are absolutely stunning, because also in food innovation, we have seen tons of millions and billions invested sometimes in one single solution without thinking about the ripple effect.
Sara Roversi is the founder of the Future Food Institute, an ecosystem builder and visionary leader driving systemic change in the food industry. Starting over a decade ago, Sara's worked tirelessly to inspire a transformation that combines education, community development, and innovation. We discussed why systemic thinking is essential for food system transformation, the drivers of innovation, the groundbreaking research done by the Future Food Institute, and the early days of building this ecosystem. This is Tomorrow's Bites, and now, dear impact makers, here's our conversation with Sara Roversi.
Sara, thanks a lot for joining to Tomorrow's Bites. We're so happy that you came here and that you gonna have this conversation with us. I guess that the first question to do for you to introduce yourself a little is, Sara, what is your mission and what change would you like to see in the world?
I'm Sara Roversi. I'm the president of the Future Food Institute. I founded this organization, say around 12 years ago. We incorporated the first entity of our ecosystem in 2014, and we started really with the mission of trying to nudge and help the food systems transformation. While being food entrepreneurs, we started really feeling that we were not doing enough, and that we never focused enough on what is really the power we hold in our hands, being someone working in food. And at the end, we ended up creating an ecosystem that is focused on education and knowledge, community development, and research and innovation. So we run programs, boot camps, we work with schools, we do trainings for leaders in public administration, industry, mayors, school deans, and so on. Plus, we have living labs where we work really on long-term programs together with communities where our homes are real epicenters of innovation where we are. And we have an R&D team working both in the future of farming, very much focused on regenerative processes, and the future of food at large, touching new eating lifestyles, but also new foods, upcycling, food waste. So we have a team of crazy food alchemists that are working on making magic with food.
Okay, that sounds really good. But I wanted to point out something that you mentioned at the beginning of your answer. That is the fact that as a food entrepreneur, maybe you saw the food system in a different way, because I did my research, of course, and I saw that your first venture was, you were founder of a sushi restaurant. And I wanted to say, what has changed from that really beginning to the Sara Roversi that decided to pursue the Future Food Institute?
Listen, we probably have been always like that in the way we are approaching things. We always wanted to do something that no one else was doing. So when we started the sushi restaurant, there were no sushi at all in Italy. So we picked the time in which it was something absolutely crazy. To eat sushi, you had to drive from Bologna to Milan or in Rome, because there were like 2 or 3 sushi restaurants. And we picked really the explosion of sushi, as well as it happened with our Well Done Burger. So we opened up Well Done Burger more than 10 years ago, when there were only McDonald's and Burger King and not at all any gourmet burger, anything like that. And we created a burger place that was unique, only using sourdough, different kind of ancient grain, different kind of grass-fed, organic, regenerative uh, producers, and creating very plant-forward options and so on. And after a little while, there were tons of burger chains and tons of gourmet burger and so on. So we always pick the niche of what is not yet there, and we see the explosion of that. So this is probably what we saw also with the need of creating something that is focused on the future of food and combining health and sustainability, that are, I think, the major drivers nowadays for choices. On the other hand, always when we were working in our field, we always have been very much focused on making something unique and making something very much focused on doing something good. So also with So Sushi, we were looking for sustainable products, sustainable fishermen's, and also certified one. When there were the brand new law on the regulation on preserving fish, we decided to publish an educational book and to work with our food safety national institution to educate all the restaurateurs and chefs. So we always approached everything with probably the same kind of approach, but it was a different field, let's say.
It's very interesting. Like, I mean, that is all kind of journeys, and you've found a certain, let's say, like strategy that can be implemented in different scenes. You use it now as well. But the driver of like being an entrepreneur, Sarah, was it always there, like in your youth as well?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately for the ones that are surrounding me, yes. Yeah, it was always there. And I would say I'm starting always getting very bored when I see things that are already existing, are already there. So I hate copies. I hate to copy and I hate copies. So I always look for something new. If there's something that someone else is doing well, there's no reason to do it similar. I want to do something else. So I always try to find what is unique and what is missed, what to fill the gap, to do things that others don't want to do, maybe because they are too tough. And so I want to understand why. And so I always try to find the niche where my help is needed.
Yeah, it sounds like an entrepreneur being far in the front, already a for front runner for some time. I mean, introducing new things that comes with also a lot of like challenges, because it's, as you said, it will be completely new for a lot of people. So how do you know then that there's a need? Like, how do you start?
I feel it. But trust me, it's not a positive thing, because sometimes you are too early. And unfortunately, I'm not too young, and now I can look backwards and see what happened. So I'm starting realizing all of that. Just if I look back and I see what's the pattern that was replicated in all the different situations. So if I see the pattern is always has always been like that, and I'm absolutely not excited to do things that already exist. And this is not, I say, from the entrepreneurial perspective, we are very good in being innovators and being pioneer, but this doesn't mean that you are by chance or because you are a pioneer also a very successful entrepreneur, or you are making lots of money, because sometimes pioneers are paying the fact of being so early and to be the one that are prototyping, that are making the mistakes, that are failing, and thanks to these failures, or thanks to this trial or this prototype or these studies, then the others can do tons of things. But it's I understood that at the end is like what I am, so I cannot fake being something different.
And at the same time, I mean, you have all this pain sometimes when you have to face these challenges. But for you, what motivates you to continue going, to keep on pushing for your mission?
Curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat. Curiosity.
Yeah.
It's curiosity and the fact that you want to find solutions. And this is something that you cannot stop, because this is the motivation that pushes to do good and to leave the world a little bit better than what you find. And so this is probably what pushed me. And you know what the biggest motivation is, the fact that you see the how people around you is changing, how things are changing thanks to your actions. So this is really what motivates me so much. And sometimes are
Do you
not
have in your mind?
directly related.
Sorry. Do you have in your mind
Tell.
any moment that you could, like you said, like I felt the change that I made, like a moment that you said, "Wow, I
Oh,
did this,"
yes.
or I perceive this.
I see that a lot, and it's happening very often. It's happening in the people working, say, around us. And I see the effects. I see the effects of people that maybe they're not telling you directly, but they were very different in their way of dealing with the same issues before we met, before we worked together, before they participate to our boot camps and so on. And when I see what are their reactions or their choices now, and I see the impact that was spontaneously coming out, this is the best satisfaction.
Yeah.
And it's really happening almost every day now in this period, even more. So
Oh, you're a lucky one
I'm
then.
yeah. The fact is that this is something that is very human because it's connected to relationship. This doesn't mean that is an economic. There is also an economic counterpart. So it's something that is really focused on behaviors and how much you are able to influence people mind shift, or basically the real motivation on moving towards a more regenerative pathway or becoming more sustainable and so on is something that starts from inside. So it's more focused on the inner development goals compared to the sustainable development goals. And in my last decades, I understood that to make these huge, gigantic companies change, you need to change the heart of the decision makers. You need to inspire them. And if they are going to be fully motivated and fully into their personal mission, then they're going to move the company. If not, it's going to be only a matter of KPIs, and they're going to do just putting the tick, yes, done, not because it's going to be a motivation. So whatever I do is focused on that.
So how do you then change the hearts of these people?
Let's say this is really something that we try to do, designing our events like the one that we just ended last night, in which I'm involved. It is this global summit focused on Mediterranean diet, it's the future, and combining different ingredients, different elements, and designing experiences and conferences and retreats that are really meant to facilitate casual collisions, where actually you are kind of the designers of spaces, experiences, and workshops or conferences that are designed not only to deliver content, but that are designed really thinking about what's going to be the output and the impact on every single stakeholder that is going to be involved. So for me, that my stakeholder within a conference or a summit or a retreat or a meeting is not just the few people that are gonna listen, but the suppliers, the partners, the journalists, the team members, the guests. So I'm trying to think really how all of them are going to get better or be better humans after this experience. Also for people that are
I
there just to work.
Yeah. No, it's you get them on a journey actually, you get them on a full experience. Maybe it's good to say what is then the Future Food Institute?
The Future Food Institute is an ecosystem that, as I was saying, is really focused on these three main pillars within the ecosystem, working on education, community development, and innovation. We are exposed to a bunch of different, and we try to be as diverse as much as we can, with different challenges. Challenges for us goes from the soil challenge, water, facing all of the issues related to the farming system, marginal areas, and environmental preservation, up to
Yeah.
health. There are major projects that I love and that are exciting me so much. One of this is the brand new initiative on the algorithm of longevity, where basically we are working on some research initiatives involving scientists from different partners, private, public, universities, tech companies, and so on. And we are basically analyzing the impact of the environment and of food with different experiments on men's fertility, analyzing youth between 18 and 25 and men over 70, and impact on longevity and mental health. And basically, we are measuring all the environmental impact, but also, the number of sperm and other parameters for people living in our campus in the lands of the Mediterranean diet in Cilento, and people living in close to a major city that is much more polluted. And the numbers that we are finding are absolutely stunning. So we are correlating the data, understanding that the environmental impact are absolutely critical on your health. So the cost of your health is raising so much if you live in a polluted or in a normal city that is much more polluted than these places. On the other hand, we are analyzing also how much changing the diet for 6 months, eating foods coming from this specific soil, very non-polluted and so on, is anyway getting better from every other parameter. So food is impacting so much on the different levels of the health. So this, for example, is one of the examples of things that we do where are involved many different stakeholders, and we are the player within the network that is finding funding. So this is a EU-funded initiative. Then we have another piece of an Horizon project that is funding another piece of research, and then maybe there's a grant and so on. And then we have the office of this research. The research center is in our campus, and we are cherry picking the partners. So we are really kind of the ecosystem builder, the ecosystem manager, and I'm pushing the research, trying to narrow the areas where we don't have data yet. And my dream is to create a huge platform that can give out like help thanks to predictive analytics to policymakers, decision makers that can then understand that if I'm taking these decisions for the urban development plan or whatever can be the decisions impacting the environment, the cost of health for the citizens living there is gonna raise like that. So this is the kind of platform that we are building up with a bunch of tools and tech guys, very focused on AI and predictive analytics and so on. This is one. Then
Wow.
I'm very into the world of gastro diplomacy. So we run our boot camps with gastro diplomacy, trying to inspire policymakers and regional leaders that have to do regional development plans. Again, acting on food from the diplomatic perspective. So there are a bunch of projects that our ecosystem follows. Then we have the R&D team that are working with food companies or also startups or sometimes also public administration that are asking for specific support on a specific area of innovation. But let's say our major thing, it's seeing the Future Food Institute as an ecosystem, really developing the three areas where the living labs are the homes, including everything, education, community, and innovation.
Wow. But this is it's brilliant, right? What you developed over years. Like it's unbelievable. Like very valuable projects and things that you're working on. But so I am also very interested in knowing those early days, like the start of building this. How was it? Where did you start?
It was super fun, like it is everything, because every day is a new challenge. We started together with my husband, together with our partners. One of the co-founders of Future Food is a professor, Professor Matteo Vignoli, and he was a professor of design thinking at the engineering faculty. We met him while he was in Stanford at the D School, and his dream was to come back to Italy and start to do design thinking with the food industries and Italian industries. And we were there looking for solution and looking to start something that then became the Future Food Institute. But let's say every time, every challenge follow almost the same excitement and the same pattern.
At the beginning, probably, I mean, I'm just thinking the Future Food System now, you have many projects and many things to develop. But at the beginning, what was the main focus when you, because I guess that it was not saying, let's gonna build this already from the start. What was your main focus
No,
at the start?
this was the main thing. So there were already the best in class for let's fight plastic, the best in class for the future of proteins, best in class for robotics and food, 3D printing for food. The big issue when we're talking about food is that is the big lack that we see is in the systemic perspective and in places that can make innovation happen at the systemic level. So we already have the best of the best in everything. So we have tons of academics and scientists and amazing millionaires startup that are already offering all of the solutions. But what we have been seeing is that there were a lack of someone that can see the system. And so since the beginning, we didn't want to create the brand new startup, but we wanted to create an ecosystem. So the dream of creating an ecosystem is something that is strictly connected with also the awareness of understanding that it's not easy to fund an ecosystem because it's not easy to scale and it's not easy to monetize if you frame it as an ecosystem, because it's not a service and it's not a product that is simple. If you have to do a business plan, if you are talking with a VC, if you're talking about scaling up, if you're talking about timing and so on. But the dream is really to create an ecosystem that can nudge the food system's transformation. And to do that, you need to allow people to become aware, to develop critical thinking, and to see the system as a whole. Because also in food innovation, we have seen tons of millions and billions invested sometimes in one single solution without thinking about the ripple effect, without thinking about the diplomatic implication, the political implication, the human implication, and also without connecting the dots with all the other interconnected sectors. And we saw it multiple times with lab-grown meat, with some solutions against plastics and so on. And this is tough
Still, yeah.
because it takes time. And it takes space because people need to understand and need to see the positive and the negative effects and have time to evaluate. And so this is, I think, what is needed. And so this is the reason why we wanted to start an ecosystem and not just a single solution.
One of the things that is particular about the Future Food Institute, according a little bit the information around there, is the concept of prosperity thinking. No, it seems to be one important value for the Future Food Institute. How does it shape the actions of, and what is it basically?
Yes. Okay. So we basically decided to approach innovation again, trying to add something to the already well-proved model of design thinking. Design thinking was born more than 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, there were no SDGs, no Paris Agreement, no awareness about what is the deep implication between our lifestyle, our way of consuming, and the impact on the broader ecosystem. We were not aware about the planetary boundaries, the 1.5 degrees, and all of the things that nowadays are so common. So when we started and when in 2015 the SDGs were announced, the SDGs and all the other things, because in 2015 we had SDGs, Paris Agreement at COP21, Laudato Si from Pope Francis, Expo. So many things happened in 2015 that started accelerating the global awareness on what's the deep implication between humans and planet, our habits, our eating habits overall, and the health of the environment. And we started framing that yes, we cannot live in a sick planet. We cannot live healthy in a sick planet, and so that we need to care about the environment if we want to live healthy. So when we started framing this is strict interconnection, and when everyone around us started accelerating this understanding, this awareness, we understood that in the innovation process was not enough just to think about the needs of the customer, was not enough to do the normal need finding process, and the human centered innovation was absolutely old, because we cannot just serve the needs of the single consumer that maybe wants something that is more sugary, that is more funny, that is more colorful, and is not caring about actually the needs of the planet, the needs of the nature, the needs of the community. And so we developed a model that is, of course, including all the pillars of design thinking, because it's exactly from where we come from, but is also including all the planetary boundaries, is including the communities. And so whenever we are doing any kind of solutions and innovation, it's focused on building prosperity at large. Building prosperity means for us developing the integral ecological approach that is touching all the different areas. So whenever we have to come up with a solution, even if it can be a product, even if it can be a service or whatever, we always want that is considering all the impacts. And this is the reason why we call it prosperity thinking, because we think that nowadays we cannot just be moved by building profit, but it's all about creating prosperity at large, where profit is included, but this is not the mission.
Yeah, but it's a very valuable way of thinking, and I believe it's indeed also the future. What we need more in that sense. Like, it's not only profit thinking. Yeah, it's a good ending. I cannot add up to that, but I also see that you have even created an academy. I see that you value a lot the importance of education. What is the role actually of education in transforming the food systems? Like, do everyone needs to become a more food designer in that opinion?
I say it's not needed to become a food designer, but I strongly believe that we all need to keep going, being educated and learn and learn and learn. So for us, the academy is the powerhouse of the ecosystem. everyone is a learner, everyone must be a listener, everyone must be part of the experience. But we do the same for us. I'm every day looking for what I don't know and looking for learning something more, experiencing something more. And this is also the reason why we decided to call our international campus Paideia Campus. Paideia is the Greek name meaning integral human development. So the Future Food Academy is inside the Paideia Campus. So we run all our programs with Future Food Academy, of course, inside the same philosophy, because it's absolutely part of the same philosophy.
Are there any success stories from the Food Future Institute that stand out for you, like from people that have studied there and that have developed ideas, projects that have a big impact?
So let's say the impact and the fact of being impact driven, I think anyway, is the end goal of everything. So impact and measuring the impact and finding a way to being accountable for the impact we're making, I think needs to be more and more part of our work. And I think that everything must be driven or is driven by the fact that you are understanding that you're making a positive impact on the world surrounding you. So I think that the fact of being impact driven is the main emblematic thing that probably is characterizing our ecosystem.
I wonder, you were mentioning that one of the things you want to teach upcoming impact makers or like the students in your academy is that to stay curious, like always questioning yourself, do I know all the answers? But is that something that you can really learn over time, or is it also naturally something in a person?
I don't know. The fact is that I'm sick of that because I'm never happy enough, and so I'm always going and searching and searching. So this is for sure part of my way of my way of being.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, I think that the fact of being a lifelong learner, it's what motivates us to become a better human. So this is what I wish for everyone, because if we all are gonna be moved to and pushed to become a better humans, we're gonna learn, we're gonna evolve, we're gonna grow. And I don't measure growth in numbers, but also just in experiences, in deepness, in understanding, in and so on. But I think that this is a pillar. So the topic of impact and the topic of being accountable and the topic of never stop learning or never stop hunting, never stop being in the research, I think is probably the most important element for people that are doing what I'm doing.
There is one thing that I wanted to mention around education. I am I cannot be a bigger advocate than anybody else about how important is education and the impact it can have on people. But I sometimes see some problems with the matter of education. I listed some challenges. I will not go through all of them for the sake of time, but there is particularly one that with the recent COP29 and so many events going on and things just like even this podcast that we are trying to bring discussion and we say this needs to change, there is this, we need to take action to do this, we need to take action to do that. But in the end, I see that there is more words than action going on. And my question is, what is needed in order to ensure that words become an impactful thing?
Let's say I don't have the perfect recipe. I can tell you what we try to do. Every time, also during this summit, we had a summit that was basically involving scientists from all around the world about the Mediterranean diet. So huge experts on environment, agriculture, health, and so on. But we involved also 40 students, high school students and university students. asking them to be part of the summit, but also to write down a manifesto and an action plan. And we asked to each of them to take a personal commitment. So it's easy to go in the square together with Greta and scream. But what do you do when you go back home? Because sometimes we understood that there is a big participation, but this participation is not transferred in a real concrete commitment. And so within all our programs, the boot camps, whatever is the boot camp, we ask to every participant to take its own personal commitment. It can be a very small one. I will remind to close the light every time I get out from my building. Super stupid, super simple. But maybe for someone is already something. But at least they need to understand that it's easy to take a first step. Because after the first step, there's going to be another one, and there's going to be another one, and there's going to be another one. And we need to become example for others, because we cannot just say, and then act in a different way. So this is how I feel and what we try to do. On the other hand, many people are always complaining about this big global gathering, COP yes, COP no. Unfortunately, this year is the first year I'm not going because I had so many conflicts in my agenda. But even if it seems that are unuseful, tons of bullshit, they're only talking and so on. The fact that all the people, that the good ones that are working on these issues are there, for all of us working in these issues, it's a very, very positive moment. Those events are for us our meeting points. And during these events, there are side events, sides gathering, unconventional, maybe it's just the opportunity of being together. And during these events, we find a way to come together. And in these moments, we have the chance to work and speed up processes. And for all of us, it's a huge global community joining this kind of events. There's the major one on the main stage, but around that there are all the private foundation, philanthropies, research centers, universities, all the other UN agencies, all people working in the field. And it's an opportunity because they're all there. So in 1 week, if you are working in projects, maybe with your colleagues that are working with indigenous community or others that are working on the other side of the world and so on, they're all there.
Yeah.
So I think it's also the critical mass of positive people that are a force of good coming together. I don't want to complain and going against this kind of events because I see that there is always also a positive wave happening around that.
Yeah, no, you're a valid point, but most of the critics, they don't see that part, right? They don't know that that is happening.
But they're right, because if you just see what comes out on the magazines
It's the
and on
hidden
media,
agendas or whatever, you know.
of course you have to complain, of course. So this is the thing.
Yeah.
If you just follow the media, I would say tons of things that also this time we're not going to achieve. But I
Yes.
always try also to pick the positive sides, because if you are lucky enough to know how things works and to be there to participate, there's also the opportunity to see positive things happening that are absolutely coming out of from bottom-up processes, and the people organizing the summit probably don't even see. But this is what is happening in the reality.
Yes. So, Sara, over all those years, what is one of the big lessons that you have learned working within the food and ag industry?
Oh, that is going to be a never-ending story. That we need absolutely to break the silo, and that I thought it was much easier to change. Now that I'm going deeper and deeper into regen processes, I'm understanding that we need to completely change the system, not the food system, but the systems of life, the systems of cities, the systems of relationships. Of course, starting from food is the best starting point, but probably also the reason why we started with the container in the square of Reggio Emilia, and now we are growing campuses that are working with communities, is because we are understanding that you cannot change the food system without changing the cultural infrastructure of a country or the social infrastructure of a country. So it's all interconnected.
Okay, then we go to the closing part. We have two questions. The first one is going to be even harder than normal because you have to make us a really quick question to us because we make you a lot of questions. So you make us a question that we can answer in seconds.
I'm sure you met tons of very inspiring people. I want you to tell me who's the one that can teach me something that I don't know, because I want to know someone that can inspire me, and say, I'm sure that you can have good suggestions for me.
I don't know if you know her, but for me, it's a true inspiration. It was in the podcast last episode. Caroline Steele, author of the Zootopia, Hungry City. If you have not read the books or anything, please do so. Really inspirational.
Thank you so much. I will take note.
Do I also have to give mine?
If you have it, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think one of the inspirational ones was for me. Maybe you know him. It's also a food artist, right? Like Jasper Bedenk de Kate is a food artist. He also shows in his way, basically on a very creative way, giving the knowledge to others about. Like lately, he did it about beans. Like that there are tremendous, beautiful, different colored beans around the world species, and just to showcase them, like they are so important for the soil, etc. But all around like art. He actually won an exhibition out of it as well in New York lately. It's also very interesting.
Bellissimo. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. Very grateful.
Okay. Then the last question is, Sarah, what is your favorite food?
I'm too curious. I love so many foods, but let's say probably bread and olive oil, the most essential things.
Great. Top things in heaven, top 10 things ever happened to the world. So yeah, I agree completely. That's a great answer. Well, Sarah, we are really happy that you have joined to the podcast. You have an incredible point of view and perspective. We really believe that systemic thinking is something really much more needed. The build of an ecosystem that strives for an impact in and a change that is required is something that goes a lot with the core values of this podcast. So we are so happy that you could come and share your journey. Thanks a lot for your time. We are so happy that you were here.
Thank you so much, guys. Finally, we made it. It's almost 1 year that we were trying to record this podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And a big hug to Spain.
Thanks.